Welcome to the Women on Fire podcast. We're on a mission to help you have your best menopause and rest of your life. I'm your host, Jenna Moore. I'm an integrative health menopause coach, and I've studied nutritional awareness, women's hormones through a functional medicine lens, and explored various modalities, including breathwork, mindset, and positive psychology. Join me and my guests as we discuss how to navigate the natural life transition of menopause and growing older, from waistlines, waning libidos, and what to wear now we're over 40. We discuss it all. Women on Fire is sponsored by MenoMe, a New Zealand-based company by women for women. MenoMe specializes in evidence-based, all-natural supplements to support you through every stage of menopause. Today we're going to talk about skin because I was with a group of women of a certain stage recently, and the conversation turned to skin. And actually that does happen quite often, where women are, lamenting the fact that their skin has changed. And I have to tell you that starting in Peri, menopause is a time of massive skin changes, absolutely massive. But there's a reason for that. So let's talk about it, because there's lots you can do, which is the good news, right? So those pesky hormones, well, actually it's estrogen or estradiol, which is the most dominant form of estradiol we have during our reproductive years. And as we're going to menopause, that's declining. And as we go into postmenopause, it will then get taken over by estrone, which is a weaker form of estrogen than estradiol. So it's all about the estradiol leaving our body. So that's what causes the change, because it's a big contributor to the production of a protein in our skin called collagen, and also elastin, and therefore the skin's elasticity, density, plumpness, and skin texture. So it's a big deal. But that's only part of the equation. There's lots of other things going on as well. But skin does lose up to 30% of its collagen in the first 5 years post-menopause, and after that about 2% of collagen each year. So it's quite a lot of collagen production decreasing, along with moisture levels, which are known in beauty speak as natural moisturizing factors. And these include hyaluronic acid, sebum, and lipids, which are skin oils. Sebum's like a waxy moisturizing barrier. So what happens to that barrier is that it also begins to break down in menopause. And when that happens, certain skin conditions may emerge, which I'll share with you shortly as well. But first of all, I just want to say, because of all these factors, if you are looking to improve your skin, what you want to do, your goal or our goal, is to try and increase the production of collagen and elastin and hyaluronic acid in our bodies, and to nurture and repair that skin barrier wall, because it's actually made up, like if you think of a bricks and mortar wall, that's what the skin barrier is actually looks like, and that's what's breaking down. So what are collagen and elastin? Let me explain them to you. They are protein strands in the skin, and collagen, as I said before, is behind, or a huge contributor to how plump and dewy our skin is. Elastin, meanwhile, supports to our elasticity, or how firm and taut our skin is. So menopause, along with environmental factors like aging, excessive sun exposure, drinking alcohol, smoking, begins to stop or slow their production in their tracks. And then what happens is the protein strands can become cross-linked rather than smooth, can become cross-linked, leading to wrinkling and sagging, for example. Now, hyaluronic acid, let's talk about hyaluronic acid for a moment. It's amazing. Studies have shown it can hold 1,000 times its own weight in water, so it's a huge hydrator. But it's actually not an acid, so its name is a bit of a is a bit misleading actually. It's a lubricating, moisturizing substance that's naturally present in the skin and in our bodies. So as a result of its very existence, it helps keep levels of collagen and elastin up. It's why it's also used as a gold standard moisturizer or hydrator in a lot of skincare. It's also these days, it wasn't always, but it's also usually the ingredient of choice in injectables like for lip fillers and when people get lines and things filled in as well. And when it's used in that way, it's usually used in a form that is made in a petri dish in a lab. So it's a very wonderful ingredient for anything to do with the skin. But as we grow older and as we go through menopause, our natural levels of it do reduce. So we want to build that up too. And but wait, there's more. Because estradiol is so important for our skin, and it's very, very important for building up and keeping that skin barrier, that bricks and mortar wall skin barrier that I was telling you about before as well. So when these things are reducing or there are issues with the skin barrier, some women may notice that their skin, and to be clear, we're not only talking about the face here, we're talking about the entire body, and that includes the vagina as well, because that's skin as well. So they may notice that their skin is getting dry and dehydrated, which can be two separate things actually, although they sit pretty close on the skin condition rail, but they can require different treatments. Others may notice that their skin becomes more sensitive or it's more crepey. I hear that a lot. A lot of people don't like having crepey skin. And one incredibly frustrating result of this process can be that it becomes very itchy. We can't get enough, we can't scratch deep enough, and that's to do with histamine reaction as well, and that includes our vagina as well, and that can definitely be crazy making. Vitamin C can be helpful there. I will also add an article in the show notes for you. Another thing that can happen at this time and due to all of these occurrences is an influx of pigmentation or spotty, what's often known as age spots, but they're not. They are pigmentation spots, but estradiol is also very important for the production of melanin, and all of us, whether we have dark skin or light skin, have melanin in our skin, and normally that is produced nice and smoothly, but with the reduction of estradiol we can become more spotty. So pigmentation is treatable, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. And a skin barrier, that outer layer of skin, that bricks and mortar wall that's in disrepair can also lead to things like skin conditions like rosacea, eczema, rashes, and psoriasis. So there's a lot going on, and the paradox here is that with all this dryness and sensitivity, you could also find yourself experiencing zits for the first time in years. And the reason for that is that we still have androgens or testosterone, male sex hormones, in our bodies, and they haven't declined as much, and the ratios are all out of whack with estrogen and progesterone, because testosterone is very important to women as well, but that can trigger zits also. So it's a huge subject and there's a lot going on, like I said. But what makes it even bigger is that we live in a time where there are so many options available to us, be that skincare, be that treatments, be that ingestibles, and by that I mean supplements and powders and things. So we're spoiled for choice. The world is our skincare oyster. But most of the feedback and surveys that we hear shows that you're overwhelmed by it all. You find it confusing. And I think that's perfectly understandable. I mean, I'm a former magazine beauty editor. I have had thousands and thousands and thousands of products and treatments across my desk or under my research or study hat over the years. And because the beauty industry keeps expanding and expanding, I get confused too. It's a bit like technology. You've got to be right there and to get the latest and the greatest, or else you get left behind. So it's quite amazing. But before we dive in, I just want to say to you to take heart, because we can break it down and simplify it a little bit, or you can just pick and choose what nuggets you might like to take away that you feel could be useful uh, to you. I am very aware that there is a cost of living crisis going on, and sometimes this whole beauty hoopla skincare thing can get quite pricey. So I've tried to do it in such a way that you can take the information and go and find something that includes what might help you or support you at a in a price range that suits your purse strings, because we all have different budgets, don't we? Plus, be aware that if you are still in your 30s, this is a fantastic time to do prepping, because it's a bit like perimenopause, menopause. The stronger the foundations as you go into the changes, the smoother the ride and the better off you'll be, the more you've got to work with, really. So, let's go on and look at some of this. So let's look at the skin. You've probably heard before that the skin is our largest organ, and it's incredible to think that we actually have about 2 meters of it over our body, and it can weigh about 3.5 kilos. It's quite incredible. I think that's about 7 pounds or something. So it's quite acidic. It usually has a pH level of about 4.5 to 5.5. And apparently after menopause, that can even rise a little bit. So what else it has, and this is more recent because you will have heard of your gut microbiome. I think we all would have been hiding under a rock if we hadn't heard that by now. But what you may not have heard is that the skin has its very own microbiome as well, which is why you might see some probiotic skincare out there now catering to that. Now, this microbiome also goes through changes during peri and post menopause. So that's something to be aware of. But the skin's biggest job is to act as a waterproof suit of armor, I guess, and help us keep moisture in, help protect our organs, help protect our body temperature. It's an amazing suit of armor actually to have, and a wonderful thing. So it deserves a lot of TLC. I think so anyway. So it's made up of 3 layers, okay? So there's the epidermis, which you'll know of, what's also known as the uh, stratum corneum. This is also where that skin barrier, the bricks and mortar wall is, and on this layer is our oldest skin cells. And then underneath there, and the skin's thickest layer is our dermy layer. And then the third layer, the innermost layer, is the hypodermy, or the subcutaneous layer. So our epidermis is also known as our skin barrier, or our natural moisture barrier. It's made up of a whole lot of keratinocytes and melanocytes and all that good thing, fatty acids, ceramides and things. But like I say, it's our older skin cells, and they can be stacked a bit like that brick and mortar wall I was telling you about. Well, that can break down during menopause. So if this happens, then that skin, this epidermis layer, may become more sensitive, dehydrated, or red. So we must nurture it and treat it with lots of tender, loving care, because, yeah, it's one of our most precious biological gifts, I guess. So the dermal layer, as I said, is the thickest layer of our skin, but it actually thins as we age. And its job, it supports the epidermis, and it's home to that collagen and elastin that we were talking about, and beautiful oily sebaceous glands, and nerve endings and hair follicles. So it's quite amazing. The hypodermis, that innermost layer of skin, that helps to join our skin, connects our skin to our muscle and our bone, and we also store fat there, which is why you might have heard the term subcutaneous fat. And it helps, that's the area that helps regulate body temperature as well, in conjunction with the hypothalamus in the brain, because the hypothalamus in the brain is the master of our body temperature as well, which is relevant to all of us who may experience hot flashes or may be experiencing hot flashes. So let's break this down to a few take-home basics. I say a few because I did have in mind doing 3 to 5. I've ended up with about 16 or 17 because they're all important. So I'll share them with you and take from them what you will. So number 1, use a broad spectrum SPF sunscreen, because UV rays from the sun are one of the biggest causes of premature aging, not to mention the pigmentation that I was talking about before. And the key with pigmentation is to prevent it as much as possible, so you don't have to try and work to get rid of it. And also skin cancers, because we've got to be very aware of the incidence of skin cancers as well, particularly in New Zealand, because it's one of the biggest killers, and they can boil away there for a long time and then manifest a bit later. So broad spectrum means that the sunscreen filters out both UVA and UVB rays. You can remember that by UVA being aging, UVB being burning, and you don't want either of those. Choose for a SPF factor of 30 plus or higher. You won't find 100% blockage, but 30% or higher is a good rule of thumb. And it's a great idea. I would very much encourage you to choose a natural blend, because that tends to sit on the surface of your skin, because your skin is a big mouth. And if you choose a chemical-based brand, it will be ingesting a lot of chemicals. And one of our most popular mini pauses actually is on xenoestrogens and endocrine disrupting chemicals. So I'll put a link to that in the show notes. But that's something that you want to avoid as much as possible as well. But at the end of the day, sunscreen is one of the biggest skin saviors that we have to date in the current world. Now, some ingredients to support the skin barrier, and this is the biggest star, there's the most data behind that, is niacinamide, which is vitamin B3, Ceramides, fatty acids like plant-derived squalene, which we have naturally in our bodies. The plant-derived can come from olive oil. Hyaluronic acid, that big star, and vitamin C. Vitamin C is wonderful for skin. Retinoids are great for skin health too, and they've actually been scientifically showing to reverse sun damage, but they've also been proven to strengthen skin and to stimulate collagen. The thing with retinoids is you need to use the right one, because there's a family of vitamin A's or family of retinoids. You need to use it in the right percentages, and it's a really key to use a very good brand here. Of course, it's budget dependent, but it does take a bit of education as well to know what's going to be very active. Environdu, a very, very good one, because Dr. Des Fernandez, who pioneered this technology really. And number 4, vitamins to support the skin barrier function, which you can eat or use topically. Antioxidants such as vitamins A, C, E, a niacinamide again, which is B3, and that helps synthesize proteins and ceramides. Biotin, which is vitamin B6. Now that plays a role in keratin production. And vitamin D, which we associate with stronger bones and maybe immunity and mood, but it also has a role to play with the keratinocytes in the skin as well. So vitamin D is a goodie as well. Number 5, I would suggest working from the inside out, because good skin is an inside job. What's happening with your gut? What is happening with your liver? And what is happening with your overall vitality? Because all of these things will have an impact on how your skin looks. So they are super, super important for skin, and I cannot say it loudly enough that it can be an inside job. Well, inside out job, working within and working without. So one way you can do this, and this is my 6th tip, is choose an anti-inflammatory Mediterranean style diet. Now, there's so much data on how good this is for women anyway, but it certainly will reflect on your skin because it's anti-inflammatory. It's really good for conditions such as rosacea and acne, which can be inflammatory. Estradiol, the form of estrogen that is declining during menopause too, is also famously anti-inflammatory. So as it departs, we become pro-inflammatory, what is known as pro-inflammatory. So we really want to try and keep our whole body, actually, not just our skin, as uninflamed as possible. There's a new term out, or a fairly new term, called inflammaging, and that's a part that we get into. So fill half of your plate with vegetables, drizzle them with extra virgin olive oil, use quarter of your plate for a really low GI, good starch carbohydrate, such as sweet potato, which is known as kumara in New Zealand, and the other quarter for a nice lean protein. And that's a very good rule of thumb to follow. Some antioxidant rich foods, which your skin will love: beta carotene, amino acids, polyunsaturated fatty acids. Now, you will find these in avocados, kumara, sweet potato again, red and yellow capsicums, or bell peppers they're called in the States, tomatoes, green tea, green leafy vegetables are always a winner, berries, dark chocolate, and nuts and seeds. So it's very, very plant-based. With the Mediterranean style diet tends to have a little bit of fish, maybe a glass of wine, but always with food. Number 8, for gut health, eat lots and lots of fresh vegetables, because these are the prebiotics that your gut microbiome thrive on. And then fermented foods like kimchi, sauerkraut, kefir yogurt, if you can tolerate it. These are all wonderful for optimizing your gut health. Number 9, take a probiotic, but be aware that if you're used to eating the standard Western diet, that you may take a few days to get used to that. So, especially if it's got certain ingredients in it. Number 10, for your liver, because your liver is your biggest detoxifier, and one of its jobs is to detox excess hormones. And if it can't do that, then it will recirculate them, which will show on your skin, among other things. So it loves bitter greens, and all greens actually, like rocket, broccoli, kale. Drink lots of pure filtered water, and green tea, a squeeze of lemon or lime in water, and that's great for your digestion too. And lay off alcohol and caffeine, which are liver loaders, at least until you've got your skin to where you want it to be, or until you've improved your skin. Lay off those. I know that can be hard, but yeah, it will repay you in spades. Number 10, ditch the refined and added sugars. I cannot say it enough. It's not our friend, but when it comes to the skin, it is actually our foe. It causes your insulin to spike, and it creates inflammation, which of course we're trying to avoid. It also triggers something called GAGs, and all of these can lead to sagging and wrinkling. So it is definitely not your friend, right? And number 11, less is actually more. And always look for gentle and hydrating, like a gentle hydrating cleanser, a gentle hydrating. If you use it, a treatment serum can be great, and that's where your retinoids might come in, depending on your budget. A moisturizer, definitely with hyaluronic acid, some antioxidants, wonderful, and of course sunscreen. And because we are more mature, as I said, that outer layer of skin has your oldest skin cells, and when you're younger, what's called desquamation gets rid of them naturally around about every 28 days. But an exfoliation treatment or product may help you just give them a boost to send them on their way, because it will make your skin more hydrating. So that's a great idea to do once a week. And also a treatment mask. You can get hydrating masks, nourishing masks, all kinds of masks. So one of those once a week would be great as well. The key word here is gentle, and vitamins required to support this skin barrier of ours are vitamin A, again niacinamide, which is vitamin D3. To be clear there, that helps with the synthesis of proteins and ceramides. And then your biotin, because that plays a role in keratin, that's your vitamin B7. And that's great for your hair, but it's also good for skin. And vitamin D, most people associate vitamin D with bone health, but it also is very good for the keratinocytes in the skin, as well as immune function, which is important to our skin as well. And those, number 13, those same antioxidants may be helpful with pigmentation, along with retinoids, vitamin C, which is lightening and brightening, and something called a tyrosinase inhibitor, such as kojic acid. You can get hydroquinone as a tyrosinase inhibitor as well. You need to be a little bit careful with things like that. Red light therapy has also been chosen to help, but really it's quite a complicated. You need a specialist here, and I would recommend seeing a beauty therapist or a dermatologist to help you out there, or certainly to make recommendations as you go along. And on that note, skin care has come such a very, very long way. Even in the last decade or so, it just keeps innovating. It's amazing. And if you do have the budget, because as I said, I'm very budget aware. If you do have the budget, it is a brilliant idea to see a registered beauty therapist, a dermatologist, and or an aesthetic medical practitioner who works with injectables and other treatments. Depending on what your goals are and what you're looking for, this can repay you in spades, because things like microneedling, needling, peels, and laser treatments, they all require professional practitioners behind them to treat you with them, but they can actually help with the production of collagen and elastin. And injectables are not just about the infamous Botox, which is a muscle relaxant, and fillers and fat lips anymore. The new kids on the block are things like skin boosters, and what they do is they inject a very, very fine form of hyaluronic acid just under the superficial layer of the skin to increase dewiness, but they can be used to define, or they can be used in a broader, wider treatment area. So it's very important that you see a professional for things like that. And as I say, that's budget dependent. I just want you to know that they are available if that's something that you can look at doing. And of course, I think it probably goes without saying that giving up smoking, if you smoke, is just a no-brainer. It certainly robs you of vitamins and minerals, but it does no favors for your skin. And be aware that alcohol is very dehydrating for the skin as well. And I just want to tell you about a sponsor, MenoMe, two of their products, which really fit in beautifully here. So I cannot close off without sharing them with you. Happy Go Tummy is amazing for your gut health, so therefore amazing for your skin. It contains two ingredients. It's a symbiotic, which means it's a combination prebiotic and probiotic, which is a wonderful thing because it's covering off both the bases that you want to cover. So Levox is derived from kiwi fruit, and that's the prebiotic. It's got some amazing data behind it. The probiotic in Happy Go Tummy is called L-rhamnosus. Now that's derived from a cheese. Going back to Levox from kiwi fruit, I think it's one of the only ingredients that's been shown to increase F. prau, a bacteria called F. prau, and that is not the technical name. That is just the shortened version that's easier for you to say, and anti-inflammatory butyrates. Now, F. prau is the marker of a healthy gut, and reduced levels actually of F. prau have been found in people with IBS and IBD, respiratory conditions such as COVID, and several other ones. There is a webinar on the MenoMe website, and I'll put a link in the show notes to that for you, that can tell you more about Levox and or F-Pro. And then there is Loxalox, which is amazing. As I said, I'm a former beauty editor, and I have tried thousands of products in my lifetime, and this one I really rate. It's right up there. It only contains two ingredients. One is a keratin, ingestible keratin called keragen-iv. Now that is sourced sustainably from the wool of sheep. And then there is biotin, vitamin B7, which you've heard me talk about during this episode as well. Now, it helps to anchor, because as we go through menopause, we can experience hair thinning and hair loss, and a lot of hair shedding. So what Loxalox does is it helps anchor the hair into the hair follicles. But what it also does is it helps give you the correct balance of amino acids in your nails, which is a great thing. And there's a lot of keratinocyte activity going on in there as well as the skin. Now, what the data showed about lots is it triggers the production of collagen 4 and collagen 7, which is in the juncture between that dermal layer and the epidermis. So that's a really great thing. And they point out that that is very helpful in the neck as well. And I know a lot of ladies are a wee bit concerned about their neck as their skin changes happen. So I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to get in touch with me. Thank you for listening to this episode of Women on Fire. If you like what we share, please subscribe and give us a rating and or a review. In addition, visit our sponsor's YouTube channel at MenoMe 100, where you can subscribe and watch all of the interviews. That's the best way to support this podcast so we can continue to bring it to you. Thank you for your interest in midlife, menopause, and Women on Fire.